Hello everyone, this is Nikita Uppalpati. So this will be of two parts, part 1 and part 2. So please don't skip the part 1 and watch part 2. Do watch it in a sequence and please do understand. So concentrate now. Thank you.
So hello everyone, here comes the part 2, the pteridophytes. So here the pteridophytes, these are the first true terrestrial plants with vascular tissues, and these are autotrophic, which prepare their own food, and these are embryophytic, which has embryos in their sexual reproduction, and these are archegoniate, and these are vascular cryptogams, and primitive tracheophytes. Primitive tracheophytes is nothing but the first living forms of the world, and these include the club mosses, horsetails, and ferns, etc. And these are used for medicinal purpose and as soil binders also, whereas these are mostly used as ornamental plants. Ornamental plants in the sense you keep in front of your house for showcase, right? And those are nothing but the ornamental plants. And the main plant body here is the sporophyte. And when it comes to the sporophyte, it is differentiated into true root, stem, and leaves. And here, these organs possess well differentiated vascular tissue. So here, the roots are adventitious. So here, the primary root is short-lived, and the stem internally shows epidermis, cortex, and the stele. As I said, roots, stem, and leaf. I already told you about the root, it was adventitious, whereas the primary root is short lived. And here comes the stem. The stem internally shows the epidermis, cortex, and the stele. What does the stele mean? A stele, it may be of different types. So one of the type is protostele. It is also called as siphonostele. So what does a protostele mean? It has a central core of xylem surrounded by the phloem. Or what does mean as siphonostele? Siphonostele is nothing but the medullated protostele, and or it is of solenostele. What does a solenostele means? Means it was a siphonostele with scattered leaf gaps. What does a siphonostele mean? It's a medullated protostele. So all these are interconnected. So let me tell you again. The protostele is nothing but the central core of xylem surrounded by the phloem, whereas the siphonostele, it is a medullated protostele. Means medulla is present in that. So what does the solenostele mean? The siphonostele with scattered leaf gaps, or dictyostele, the dissected siphonostele with overlapping leaf gaps. So here comes the leaf. The leaves in Pteridophyta are small, as in Selaginella, or they are large, as in ferns. Large ones are also called as macrophyllous, whereas the small ones are also called as microphyllous. Here, the sporophytes bear sporangia that subtend the by-leaf appendages called sporophylls. The sporophytes bear the sporangia that are subtended by the leaf-like appendages called sporophylls. So you know what does a sporophyll mean, right? So the development of sporangium may be leptosporangiate or eusporangiate. What does a leptosporangiate means? Here one cell participates in sporangium, that is called as a leptosporangiate, whereas in eusporangiate more than one cell, means many cells participate in sporangium, so that is known as a eusporangium. So leptosporangiate is nothing but where one cell participates, and in eusporangiate many cells participate. In stem, rhizome is unbranched in some plants, whereas it is branched in pteris. So here the xylem has trachea cells and the phloem has sieve cells. Here in macrophyllous leaves, the structure of that leaf is unipinnate and bipinnate compound. So you know what does a unipinnate and bipinnate means? Wait, let me show you here. So here, this is a unipinnate leaf, means only one side. So what does a bipinnate mean? This is a bipinnate leaf, two sides. Yes, this is a bipinnate one and this is unipinnate one. This is unipinnate and this is bipinnate. So here the sporophytes bear sporangia that are subtended by leaf-like appendages called sporophylls, as I said now, and here comes the one. So here the sporangia produces the spores, and here the spores are unicellular, uninucleate and haploid ones, whereas it divides by the meiosis. Meiosis is nothing but the reduction division in spore mother cells. I repeat it again. The sporangia produce spores by meiosis in spore mother cells. What does a spore mother cell mean? It is of four typed. In the sense it is four like divided. One are known as spore mother cells, where here the sporangia produce spores by the process of meiosis. Meiosis is nothing but the reduction division. So here in majority of pteridophytes all spores are of similar kind, whereas in such plants are termed as homosporous, and the example for them is Lycopodium, pteris and Dryopteris. So here genera like Selaginella and Salvinia, as I show you before, these Selaginella and Salvinia, they produce two kinds of spores. Those are known as macro and microspores, and they are known as heterosporous cause they do not produce similar kind of spores. So as it is providing two kinds of spores, it is known as heterosporous. And here in some cases the sporophylls may form distinct compact structures called strobili or cones, as I said here. So the example for them is Selaginella and Equisetum. So the spores germinate to give rise to inconspicuous small but multicellular free living mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophytes. They are photosynthetic and these are called as prothalae. These prothalae are monoecious, male or female. So these gametophytes require cool and damp shady places to grow. So in majority of pteridophytes all spores are of similar kinds and known as homosporous, and here as I said it before. So as these gametophytes require cool and damp shady places to grow, because of this specific requirement they need water for the fertilization. So when they grow near the cool and damp shady places, that is nothing but the seashore places, they need some water for the fertilization. So the spread of living pteridophytes is limited and restricted to narrow geographical regions. So the gametophytes bear male and female sex organs called antheridia and archegonia respectively. So the male one is called as antheridia and the female one is called as archegonia. And here the sex organs are multicellular, jacketed and sessile. So here the female gametophytes in these plants are retained on the parent sporophyte for variable periods. That means these female gametophytes, they are mostly on the parent sporophyte, and it gets degenerated after some time and develops on its own again. So the development of zygote into young embryos takes place within the female gametophyte, as I said now. So this event is known as a precursor to the seed habitat. So it is considered as an important step in the evolution. So the embryo thereafter produces a multicellular well differentiated sporophyte, which is a dominant phase in pteridophytes. So in some types of plants like ferns, like Dryopteris, fern is one type of plant, whereas the Dryopteris is one of it. So the stem is an underground rhizome in the fern, in the Dryopteris. So here the large area leaves generally pinnately compound and are called fronds, and the young leaves shows circinate vernation. A circinate vernation means it's coiling from the tip to the base. So the petioles are covered with brown multicellular hairs called ramenta, which are present in the roots. In roots, if you see, there are small brown color hair like structures, and those are known as ramenta. And here the leaflets show open dichotomous or furcate venation, and the sporangia are formed on ventral or lower surface of the leaf in groups, and these are called sori. Each sorus is covered by the membranous sheath of its own, and it is called true indusium. The anthrozoids in ferns are generally spirally coiled and multiciliate. In some ferns like pteris, Each sorus is protected by the reflexed margin of fertile leaflet, which is called false indusium. So here the pteridophytes are classified into 4 classes named as Psilopsida, example is Psilotum, Lycopsida, example is Selaginella lycopodium, and Spinopsida, example is Equisetum, and Pteropsida, example Dryopteris, Pteris adiantum, etc. These are commonly called as ferns. So here the development of zygotes into embryo takes place in the female gametes, and here as I said the Psilotum, Psilopsida, example Psilotum, Lycopsida, example Selaginella lycopodium, and Spinopsida, example Equisetum, and Pteropsida, example Dryopteris, Pteris, and adiantum. Here comes the Selaginella. This one is the Selaginella, and this one is the Selaginella, and here this is Equisetum, and this one is fern, and it is Salvinia. So as you see here, these are known as ramenta. So here next comes, as I said, the 4 types: Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Spinopsida, and Pteropsida. So here these Psilopsida are the oldest known land inhabiting plants, and the Lycopsida are known as the club mosses, and Spinopsida, as I said, at nodes also of small leaves are present at node. What does a node mean? See here, this is a node, and here this is a node, a place where group of leaves or anything that arise are known as a node. Here these are Pteropsida have fan like leaves in the sense. So this is an important point, just remember it. Actually this is not necessary for you, but this is an extra information, so please do remember. It might be asked in aims or something else like that. So here comes the rootlets and rhizoids are present in Psilopsida, whereas in Lycopsida root, stem, leaves are present, and these are the members of microphyllas. Microphyllas in the sense small spore-like structures. And here Spinopsida consists of ridges and grooves found in stem. So here in Pteropsida, stem in form of rhizome. In Psilopsida, these are of homosporous, means same type of spores are produced, and these are mostly of fossils. And here in Lycopsida also, homosporous are of Lycopsida and heterosporous are of Selaginella. And here in Spinopsida, these are always homosporous, whereas in Pteropsida, the homosporous Dryopteris septeris, whereas the heterosporous are Marsilia. And here next comes the gymnosperms. This is a term coined by Theophrastus. Theophrastus, you know everyone, right? So they are archegoniate and phanerogams. So here the ovules are not enclosed by any ovary wall and remain exposed both before and after the fertilization. Here the seeds that develop post fertilization are not covered, that is they are naked. And here the ginkgo is considered to be a living fossil. Let me show you the plant. And this is ginkgo. It looks like this. And this is a living fossil. Whereas the sequoia, it is a giant redwood tree, and it was one of the tallest species of all the gymnosperms. So here the roots, they are generally tap roots, and some genera have fungal association in the form of mycorrhiza, while in some other small specialized roots called coralloid roots are associated with nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. So the nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria are blue-green algae, nostoc and Anabaena, whereas in some others in the sense it was cycas. And yeah, here the stems are unbranched as in cycas, or branched as in pinus and cedrus. So the leaves, they may be simple or compound in structure, and in cycas the pinnate leaves persist for a few years. So let me show you the cycas plant. This is a cycas plant. Here, this one. And here in this cycas, there are pinnate leaves. In the sense, two sides they are present, right? as you can see here. Yeah, and that type of structure is known as a pinnate leaf, and the leaves here are well adapted to withstand extreme of temperature, humidity and the wind. So in conifers, needle-like leaves reduce surface area. Let me show you conifers. No, it's not present, but the example is pinus, like this, leaf-like, but they are not leaf. So they are needle-like, means when you go near that it will poke you, but not so hurting, but little bit. So yeah, in conifers the needle-like leaves reduce the surface area, and their thick cuticle and sunken stomata also help to reduce water loss. So here automatically the stem shows eustele, and the eustele, the vascular bundles are conjoined, collateral and open, whereas in vessels they are generally absent in xylem and composition cells and absent in phloem. So the secondary growth here occurs in the stem and the root. So the gymnospores are heterosporous, they are not homosporous, and they produce haploid microspore and a megaspore. So heterosporous is nothing but two different kinds of spores, whereas the first one is haploid microsporous and the second one are megaspores. So here the two kinds of spores are produced within sporangia that are borne on sporophylls, which are arranged spirally along an axis to form compact strobili or cone. So here the strobili bearing microsporophylls and microsporangia are called microsporangiate or male strobili, whereas the microspores develop into a male gametophytic generation which is highly reduced and is confined to only a limited number of cells, and this reduced gametophyte is known as pollen grain. Here the development of pollen grains takes place within the microsporangia, and the cones, they bear the megasporophylls with the ovules or integumented megasporangia are called macrosporangiate or female strobili. So the microsporophylls or megasporophylls may be born on the same tree. The example for that is pinus, and whereas they may be formed on the different tree, in the example for that is cycas. The megaspore mother cell is differentiated from one of the cells of the nucellus. The nucellus is protected by envelopes or integuments, and the composite structure is called an ovule. The megaspore mother cell divides meiotically to form 4 megaspores. So one megaspore mother cell divides meiotically to form 4 megaspores. Let me show you here. So this might be one megaspore mother cell which meiotically divides into 4 megaspores like this. Like this. So one of the megaspore is enclosed within the megasporangium, that means the nucellus, and it develops into a multicellular female gametophyte that bears 2 or more archegonia or the female sex organs. The multicellular female gametophyte is retained within the megasporangium and also called endosperm. Here there was one of the important character of cycas. So it is nothing but the siphonogamy accompanied by zooidogamy. So let me tell you that before that this cycas has 2 to 6 archegonium, whereas archegonium are absent in gnatum. So let me again repeat, the cycas has 2 to 6 archegonia, whereas the archegonium is absent in gnatum. Here ovule consists of a nucellus plus integument. So next here comes, this is cycas as I said you before. So here the multicellular female gamete is retained within the megasporangium and is also called endosperm. So not like bryophytes and pteridophytes, but in gymnosperms, the male and female gametophytes do not have any independent free living existence. So there is no independent free living existence in these gymnosperms, where they remain within the sporangia retained on the sporophytes, and the pollen grain is released from the microsporangium, and the pollination is direct and anemophilous. They are carried by air currents and come in contact with the opening of the ovules borne on the megasporophilus. And carrying by air currents is nothing but the anemophilus. And the pollen tube carrying male gametes grows towards archegonia in the ovules and discharges the contents near the mouth of the archegonia. This is called as siphonogamous oogamy. So what I told you before was, the cycas has an important character where siphonogamous oogamy is accompanied by zooidogamy. So the cycas shows both siphonogamy and zooidogamy because male gametes are multiciliate but carried by pollen tube. So in others, male gametes are non-motile and the zygote develops into an embryo and ovules into seeds. These seeds are naked and not covered by the fruit wall. So in addition to these multiciliate male gametes, cycas show some other fern characters like circinate vernation of young leaves, as I told you before, and there is a presence of ramenta and the presence of archegonia. Gymnosperms are divided into three classes, that is nothing but Cycadopsida, which is known as cycas, and Coniferopsida, which is known as pinus. It is called as Coniferopsida due to the needle-like structure of leaf, and the Gynopsida, which is the example of ginkgo, Gnetopsida. And next comes the angiosperms. So here angiosperms. What does angio mean? Angio is nothing but a vessel, and the sperms is nothing but the seed here. So it has two generation seeds, one is a parental sporophyte and another one is another one. So here these angiosperms are embryophytic, non-archegoniate, vascular fruit bearing phanerogams, and here these seeds are enclosed by the fruits. The ovules are present inside the ovary of the gynoecium, whereas in gymnosperms these ovules are naked. But here in these angiosperms, the ovules are present inside the ovary of the gynoecium. The pollen grains and the ovules are developed in specialized structures called flowers. Here, as you can see here, the flower. Yes. So here, the pollen grains and ovules are developed inside special structures called flowers. In angiosperms, seeds are enclosed in fruits, as you see daily. So the angiosperms are embryophytic, non-archegoniate, vascular fruit bearing phanerogams or spermatophytes. The angiosperms are exceptionally large group of plants. So we can see everywhere these angiosperms. So in our day-to-day life, we will see every day we will see at least one angiosperm, that might be a fruit or a flower. So they range in size from almost microscopic Wolffia. Wolffia, you know, right? The green color one. When you see when there is a more stagnant water, and that is nothing but the Wolffia. It is spread so fastly, and that is so microscopic, a very very small structure. And this includes a small ranged microscopic Wolffia to tall trees called eucalyptus. Eucalyptus, that was a big tall tree. It was over 100 meters above. So they provide us with food, fodder, fuel, medicines and several other commercially important products for our day-to-day life. So here the root system of these plants is taproot or adventitious root. So the main conducting elements of the xylem are vessels, and the phloem consists of the companion cells. So they develop flowers with usually conspicuous perianth. So what does a perianth means? Which encloses the structures. So here the male sex organs in a flower are stamens, whereas this is known as a microsporophyll, whereas each stamen consists of a slender filament with an anther at its tip. So you can see here, right? This is nothing but a stamen. It has a slender filament and an anther at its tip. Yes, and this is nothing but a stamen. So in anthers, the microspore mother cells undergo meiosis and produce pollen grains. In this anther, this microspore mother cell undergo meiosis and produce pollen grains. See here, it produced pollen grain. Through microsporangium and the microspore, it produced the microspore pollen grain. And here the female sex organ in a flower is a pistil or a carpel. The pistil consists of an ovary enclosing one to many ovules. See here, this is a pistil which consists of an ovary, as you can see here. And this is style, this is stigma. So, within ovules, a megaspore mother cell undergoes meiosis and produces 4 megaspores. This is a megaspore mother cell which undergoes meiosis and produces the 4 megaspores, and usually one megaspore develops into highly reduced female gametophyte termed embryo sac, which is nothing but the egg. So each of these cells of an embryo sac is haploid, and each embryo sac has 3-celled egg apparatus comprising one egg cell with 2 synergids. So it is a 3-celled egg apparatus. So it has one egg cell with 2 synergids. These are the 2 synergids. And these are the 3 antipodal cells. This one are the 3 antipodal cells, whereas these are the 2 polar nuclei. These are the 2 polar nuclei, and these polar nuclei eventually fuse to produce a diploid secondary nucleus. This is 3-celled egg apparatus. So here the pollen grains after dispersal from the anther are carried by the wind. So carrying by the wind is nothing but the anemophily, or water by hydrophily, or by various other biotic agents like animals, which is nothing but the zoophily, to the stigma of the pistil. This is termed as a pollination. So in angiosperms, the transfer of pollen to ovule in ovary is not direct and hence called indirect pollination. So the pollen grains here germinate on the stigma, and resulting pollen tubes grow through the tissues of stigma and style and reach the ovule. So the pollen tubes here enter the embryo sac where 2 male gametes are discharged. So one of the male gamete fuses with the egg cell to form a zygote, as I said here. One of the male gamete fuses with the egg cell to form a zygote, and this process is known as syngamy, whereas other male gamete, haploid one, it fuses with the diploid secondary nucleus. See, this is diploid secondary nucleus to produce a triploid primary endosperm nucleus. It is triploid, 3N. So this is called as triple fusion, and because of the involvement of 2 fusions, this event is termed as double fertilization, an event unique to angiosperms which is not present in any gymnosperm or a pteridophyte. So the fertilization is siphonogamous, whereas the zygote develops into an embryo with 1 or 2 cotyledons, and the primary endosperm nucleus develops into endosperm, which provides nourishment to the developing embryo. So here the synergids and antipodals are degenerating after fertilization. During these events, the ovules develop into seeds and the ovaries develop into fruit. So based on the number of cotyledons in seed, angiosperms are divided into 2 classes, as I said to you. Those are dicotyledons and monocotyledons. So the dicotyledons are characterized by having two cotyledons, whereas the monocotyledons are having only one cotyledon in their seeds. So next comes the plant life cycle and alternation of generation. So in this, the plants, both haploid and diploid cells can be divided by mitosis. So this ability leads to formation of different plant bodies, the haploid and the diploid. So the haploid plant body produces gametes by mitosis, and this plant body represents a gametophyte stage. And the following the fertilization, the zygote also divides by mitosis to produce a diploid sporophytic plant body, and the haploid spores are produced by this plant body by meiosis, whereas in turn these divide by the mitosis to form a haploid plant body once again. So during the life cycle of any sexually reproducing plant, there is an alteration of generation in between gamete producing haploid gametophyte and a spore producing diploid sporophyte. So some of them here are haplontic, diplontic and haplodiplontic. So let me tell you about the haplontic life cycle. So here the sporophyte generation is represented only by one celled zygote. This blue one is the sporophyte one and this violet one is a gametophyte one. So this sporophyte generation is represented by one celled zygote. It is a diploid and single celled zygote. There are no free living sporophytes here. So the meiosis in zygote results in the formation of haploid spores. Here, this is meiosis. One cell dividing into two and the other cells dividing into two. So the meiosis here results into formation of the haploid spores. The N is a haploid one. So these haploid spores, they divide mitotically and form the gametophyte here. The gametophyte, it is haploid 2, and the dominant photosynthetic phase in such plants is a free living gametophyte. So this gametophyte is a dominant photosynthetic phase, and this kind of life cycle is haplontic, and example for this is Volvax, Spirogyra and some species of Chlamydomonas. And next comes the diplontic life cycle. So in this diplontic life cycle, a diploid sporophyte is a dominant stage. So here the sporophyte stage is a dominant stage as it is considered the most one, and here the gametophyte stage is the least one. Whereas in haplontic, the gametophyte stage is a dominant one as it consists of more one, and this stage is a small one. Sporophytic stage is a small one. So in diplontic, sporophyte is a dominant. This sporophyte stage is a dominant photosynthetic independent phase of plant, whereas the gametophyte phase is represented by the single to few celled haploid gametophyte. See here, single to few celled haploid gametophyte, and this kind of life cycle is diplontic. So all seed bearing plants, that is gymnosperms and angiosperms, are of diplontic life cycle. So next comes the haplodiplontic life cycle. Means it has both sporophytic and gametophytic stage with equal length. So here bryophytes and pteridophytes exhibit this intermediate condition. So both phases are multicellular here. However, they differ in their dominant phases. A dominant independent photosynthetic thalloid or erect phase is represented by the haploid gametophyte, and it alternates with the short-lived multicellular sporophyte. So this one is small and short-lived or totally or partially dependent on the gametophyte for its anchorage and nutrition. So here all bryophytes represent this type of pattern. So the diploid sporophyte here is represented by a dominant independent photosynthetic vascular plant body. It alternates with the multicellular saprophytic autotrophic independent but short-lived haploid gametophyte. So this alteration in generation is known as the haplodiplontic life cycle, and all pteridophytes exhibit this pattern. Interestingly, while most of the algae genera are haplontic, some of them such as Ectocarpus, Polysiphonia, kelps are haplodiplontic, and Fucus is an algae in diplontic. Here, for haplontic life cycle, the examples are algae, and when it comes to the diplontic life cycle, the examples are bryophytes, no, that was wrong. Bryophytes are haplodiplontic. Always remember that the bryophytes are haplodiplontic as it shows both sporophyte and gametophytic stage. So what is a diplontic example? Just remember, as I said, it is a fucus. Yes, fucus is a diplontic one. Example of diplontic is fucus. Next comes the haplodiplontic. What does a haplodiplontic life cell have? The example for this is bryophyte, and Ectocarpus, and Polysiphonia. Kelps are also haplodiplontic. So let me mention here so that you will not forget them. Polysiphonia and the kelps. Yeah. And there is another stage called diplohaplontic. What does a diplohaplontic means? Here the gametophyte is represented by few celled or many celled stage life cycle, and this is called as diplohaplontic, and most of the pteridophytes and all seed bearing plants follow this pattern. So for diplohaplontic, the examples are pteridophyte, gymnosperm and angiosperm. So I hope everyone understood this topic. If you have any doubts and queries, please comment down in the comment section, and please do like and subscribe our channel. Thank you for watching.